In the corner of the attic, among dusty relics of the past, I found it. A clown doll. Its once vibrant colors had faded, and its painted smile seemed to taunt me with a malevolent glee. My unease grew as I picked it up, feeling an inexplicable connection to the sinister creation. That night, I placed the doll on a shelf in my room, convincing myself it was just a harmless decoration. But as I lay in bed, the faint moonlight cast eerie shadows on its face. I blinked, and I could have sworn its grin had widened. Days turned into sleepless nights. I'd wake up to find the doll had moved, inching closer to my bed. Its eyes seemed to follow me around the room, its grin now a twisted mockery of joy. I told myself it was my imagination, that the stress was getting to me. One evening, the power went out, leaving me in darkness. I fumbled for a flashlight and shone it toward the shelf. The clown doll was gone. Panic surged through me as I scanned the room, and then I saw it. The doll perched on the edge of my bed. The flashlight flickered, casting a sinister play of light and shadow. The doll's grin was impossibly wide, its eyes gleaming with malevolence. I stumbled back, the walls of my room closing in around me. The doll's laughter echoed, a chilling melody that seemed to pierce through the darkness. With trembling hands, I reached for the doll, intent on throwing it away. But the moment my fingers touched it, a jolt of electricity coursed through me. I recoiled, the doll falling to the floor, its laughter growing louder, more taunting. I watched in horror as the doll began to move, its limbs jerking and contorting in unnatural ways. It crawled toward me, its painted eyes fixed on mine, its grin now a gaping maw of teeth. I couldn't move, couldn't escape its malevolent gaze. And then, it spoke. A whisper that chilled me to the bone. "Play with me." Its voice was a distorted, hollow sound that seemed to reverberate within my very soul. Terror gripped me, and I stumbled out of the room, slamming the door shut. But the doll's laughter followed me, echoing through the halls. I tried to convince myself it was all a nightmare, that I would wake up any moment. But the next morning, the door to my room was ajar. I hesitated, heart pounding, before pushing it open. The room was empty, no sign of the clown doll. I breathed a sigh of relief, convincing myself that it was finally over. But as I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of movement in the mirror. I froze, my eyes widening in horror. Behind me, the clown doll stood on the shelf, its grin wider than ever, its eyes gleaming with triumph. I could feel its presence behind me, its malevolent aura suffocating me. And then its laughter filled the room, a haunting symphony that enveloped me in its nightmarish embrace. I realized then that the doll was not just a plaything. It was a conduit for something far more sinister, something that had taken a liking to tormenting me. As the laughter continued to echo, I knew I was trapped in a waking nightmare, one where the grinning clown doll held the strings of my fear and danced to its own twisted tune. I turned around, and the doll was closer now, its presence an oppressive weight that bore down on me. It began to sway, its limbs moving with a grotesque fluidity, as if it were dancing to its own nightmarish rhythm. The laughter transformed into a haunting melody, a siren's call luring me deeper into its clutches. As the doll's dance continued, I felt a strange compulsion, a sick curiosity that drew me closer despite my fear. Its laughter became a hypnotic chant, echoing in my ears, drowning out all rational thought. I reached out, my fingers trembling, and touched the doll's outstretched hand. And then, with a sudden deafening crack, the mirrors shattered, fragments of glass flying through the air like deadly projectiles. The doll's laughter turned into a blood-curdling scream, a sound that seemed to echo from the depths of hell itself. I shielded my face as the room filled with a blinding light, the shards of glass reflecting the intense radiance. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the light vanished, leaving behind an eerie silence. I cautiously lowered my arms, my heart still pounding in my chest. The room was empty, the doll nowhere in sight. The shattered mirrors lay in ruins around me, a testament to the chaos that had unfolded. I stumbled out of the room, my legs weak and trembling. The hallway was quiet, the laughter finally silenced. As I made my way downstairs, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped something beyond comprehension, something that had harnessed the power of my fear. In the days that followed, I searched for answers, trying to understand the true nature of the doll and the terror it had unleashed. But the more I delved into it, the more I realized that some forces defy explanation. Some horrors are best left buried in the depths of the unknown. The headlines spoke of a string of gruesome murders, all carried out with a sinister flair that left the entire city paralyzed with fear. They dubbed the killer the circus killer. due to the macabre details surrounding each crime. One stormy night, as I walked home alone, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The shadows seemed to dance around me, whispering secrets of darkness. And then I saw him, a figure dressed as a clown, standing beneath a flickering streetlight. I quickened my pace, heart pounding, but no matter how fast I walked, the clown remained just a few steps behind me. I turned a corner, hoping to lose him in the labyrinthine streets, but he always found me, his eerie smile never faltering. The rain intensified, washing away the blood-red grin that painted his face. I felt a shiver run down my spine as he whispered, "Come and play." Panic surged through me, and I sprinted towards the nearest building, desperate to find refuge. Inside an abandoned warehouse, I gasped for breath, trying to control my terror. But the whispering followed me, the clown's voice echoing in the empty space. I turned to leave, but he stood in the doorway, his grin impossibly wide. "You can't escape," he taunted, his eyes gleaming with malice. The room seemed to close in on me, the walls shifting and distorting. The clown's laughter filled my ears, drowning out my thoughts. I ran deeper into the warehouse, my footsteps echoing on the concrete floor. The air grew colder, the darkness deeper, and then I saw them, rows of empty circus cages, each with a grotesque reminder of his crimes. As I reached the end of the line, I froze. The clown was there waiting for me, his grin unnaturally wide, his eyes hollow. "It's your turn to be part of the show," he hissed. I backed away, my heart racing, my mind spinning. I was trapped, a captive in his twisted circus of dread. The walls seemed to close in, the cages transforming into a nightmarish stage. The clown lunged, and I stumbled back, my back hitting the cold metal bars. His laughter was a symphony of madness as he raised a gleaming knife. The world around me twisted and distorted, and as he approached, his face seemed to shift, contorting into the faces of his victims. But then, a blinding light filled the room, and the clown's laughter turned into screams of agony. I shielded my eyes, and when I looked again, he was gone, leaving behind only a chilling silence. As the police sirens wailed outside, I stumbled out of the warehouse, the horror of the night etched into my soul. The circus killer had met his end, but his nightmare would forever haunt my thoughts, a reminder that evil could wear the mask of a clown and unleash terror beyond imagination. I had always been uneasy around clowns, their painted smiles hiding who knows what behind their eyes. But nothing could have prepared me for the night I encountered one that would forever haunt my nightmares. It was a misty evening when I took a shortcut through a deserted park. The swings creaked eerily, and the rustling of leaves seemed to echo louder than it should. And then I saw it, a figure standing by the fountain, a clown with garish makeup and a wide, twisted grin. My heart raced as I tried to walk past it, but its eyes followed me, its grin growing impossibly wider. I picked up my pace, my footsteps echoing on the pathway. But no matter how fast I walked, the clown's laughter seemed to keep pace with me, a high-pitched, mocking sound that sent chills down my spine. I glanced over my shoulder and my heart froze. The clown was no longer by the fountain. It was right behind me, its breath hot on the back of my neck. I broke into a run, my pulse pounding in my ears. I could feel its presence at my heels, its laughter now a sinister symphony. I stumbled out of the park and onto a dimly lit street, my chest heaving. I dared another glance behind me, and there it was, still following me, its grin now impossibly wide, stretching from ear to ear. Its eyes were dark pits, devoid of any humanity. Terrified, I turned a corner, hoping to lose it in the labyrinth of streets. But no matter which way I went, the clown was there, its footsteps echoing in perfect rhythm with mine. Its laughter became a tormenting chant, driving me to the edge of insanity. I sprinted toward a small alleyway, my breathing ragged. I thought I had finally shaken it off, that maybe I could escape its relentless pursuit. But as I turned around, I realized the truth. It had been waiting for me. The clown stood at the entrance of the alley, its grin now so wide that its lips seemed to stretch beyond their limits. Its laughter became a cacophony surrounding me, drowning out my thoughts. I backed away, my body trembling with fear, and then the laughter stopped. The alley was plunged into an eerie silence. The clown's grin remained frozen in place, its eyes boring into mine. I could feel its malevolence, its hunger for something beyond comprehension. With a sudden burst of energy, I turned and ran as if my life depended on it. I didn't look back, didn't dare to glimpse that nightmare figure again. The streets seemed to blur as I raced through them, my only goal to escape that grinning horror. When I finally reached the safety of my apartment, I locked the door and collapsed onto the floor, gasping for air. The image of the clown's twisted grin was seared into my mind, and its laughter echoed in my ears long after the night had fallen quiet. Now, whenever I close my eyes, I see that grinning nightmare lurking in the shadows, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to cross its path. And I know, deep down, that I was lucky to escape its clutches, but I also know that its memory will forever haunt my every waking moment.